So anyway, for those of you here, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. We are pretty much a lot has happened in the last week, we wanted to try and do this as late as possible, but also give you enough time to also have the materials before your meetings that you might be getting into next week, or possibly even further. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so as you can see, I've titled this Advocacy Week March 21st through 25th because I know there's some meetings that are getting scheduled a little bit beyond the 25th, which is totally fine. This is not something where things are going to happen at the end of next week because of what we do. This is going to be probably at least a couple months process of trying to get this through the next stage, getting it through the Senate. So where are we? So first of all, the government did not shut down. Obviously, the other day, the Congress did pass the fiscal year 2022 appropriations. So that's actually funding our current year, and they actually included $3.4 million in there for the JACS program. So it's actually a little bit more than what has normally been in there, which is 3.1 million. So we were pretty pleased to see that. And I know that there had been some talk in some of the previous iterations of the appropriations bills of being possibly increased as well. 3.4, 3.5 million had been kind of bandied around. So wasn't a surprise, but it is always it's nice to see that they are did sort of increase that a little bit. As I noted on our last call, offices are accepting 2023 appropriations requests. So as you are talking to offices, make sure that you are keeping track of that, whether those are due already perhaps, or when they are going to be due. And of course, the big news this past week is that the JACE Act has passed in the House. There was a short debate on, was it Tuesday, in the afternoon. There were a couple members who spoke. Doris obviously spoke, Doris Matsui. Um, uh, Congressman Nagus also spoke since he was the one kind of leading it. And then um, gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the congressman from Arkansas. Um,
Westerman.
Westerman, yes, he also spoke and then talked about how a lot of money has gone to Arkansas, which is really nice to hear, and also to hear the bipartisan support for it. Some of you may have also been following the World War II History Network bill that was sponsored by Obernolte, and that actually did pass on Wednesday. So it did not pass on Tuesday through the sort of the acclamation or unanimous consent process. There was a request from Congressman Harris from Maryland to do a voice or to do a roll call vote as opposed to the voice vote, and they did that on Wednesday, and it passed with pretty much everybody except for 16 Republicans voting for it. Interesting, one of the objections was from Congressman LaMalfa, who represents Tule Lake, and part of his concern was the lack of infrastructure in his district to be able to support increased tourism that this designation might bring. So we've already requested a meeting with his office to talk about, yes, you do need to improve the infrastructure in your district, and we would love for you to do that because I have gone to the Tule Lake pilgrimage, and we actually had to stay in Oregon for that pilgrimage, which is kind of ridiculous if you think about it. Um, so where we are right now with the JACE Act is that it has been referred to the um, um, House Energy and Natural Resource, sorry, the Senate Energy Committee to the National Park Services Subcommittee. So as far as our message, we have a broad message on appropriations to all the offices, both House and Senate, that we want the JACS grant program fully funded for at least 3.1 million for FY 2023. Um, we could ask for 3.4 million. I generally think 3.1 million seems to be a pretty decent amount. It seems to fund a good number of programs. They spread it around well. We have to keep in mind that the more that they fund per year means the faster it also runs out that money. In the current reauthoriz or the current authorization extension, it will actually add $32 million for the JACS traditional JACS grants, and then there's the additional 10 million that would go towards the education program. So we're talking about 32 million, which roughly would be about 10 more years of funding at a 3.1 million per year rate. If you obviously go at 3.4, it's going to run that out a lot more quickly. And then obviously we want to thank them for the funding in the FY22 appropriations. In the House of Representatives, obviously we want to thank them for passage of the JACE Act this past week. And then obviously the important thing, as always, is to share any updates on the JACS grants that you have received, trying to demonstrate the positive effect in their district. Again, this is more just the positive reinforcement of why this is important, why it's important for their district in particular. For the Senate, this is where we're really going to be pushing now, obviously, because now that we have the passage in the House, it is entirely on the Senate now to get this passed. So first thing is to ask for co-sponsors. There are only 8 co-sponsors in addition to the original author of the bill, Senator Schatz. So those co-sponsors are listed here. So obviously Senator Hirono, who's his colleague in Hawaii, also the sole Japanese American in the Senate. The 2 senators from Illinois, the 2 senators from Washington, Wyden from Oregon, Klobuchar from Minnesota, and Hickenlooper from Colorado. So there are a lot of possibilities there that are not yet co-sponsors on this that we need to pick up. Me and I were just talking before this that it's pretty unbelievable that we don't have either of the California senators on this yet. So I think that's one of the big goals for this week, is to at least get those 2 Californians on. I know some of the other places that are going to be targeted. I think we've got the Japanese American Museum of Oregon, so perhaps getting both senators from Oregon on there. And we have a few folks from the D.C. area who'll be targeting the Virginia and Maryland senators as well. So yes, if they are not one of those 9 senators listed there, ask them to co-sponsor. And then the other message is that we want to vote. We want to move the bill in the Senate through the committee and bring it to the floor for a vote. So you can see here the subcommittee members that have jurisdiction over this bill right now are listed there. Senator King from Maine, Sanders from Vermont, Heinrich from New Mexico, Hirono from Hawaii, Kelly from Arizona, and then on the Republican side is Daines from Montana, Lee from Utah, who we know had some issues with the Amachi bill previously, Murkowski from Alaska, Hoeven from North Dakota, and Langford from Oklahoma. So those are that's where the pressure will be applied as far as trying to get that out of the committee. And then the last thing that we're going to be doing next week is grassroots activation. So we have this system, it's called Salsa Labs, where it will auto-populate for your representatives. And this is something that we're going to do broadly. This isn't just sort of like for this group where we're doing the one-on-one visits. This is where you can engage all your friends' network, basically, and we want to get as many messages as possible. To send emails, primarily, it does a backup fax if the office doesn't accept emails. To Senate offices, asking them to co-sponsor Senate Bill 988, and then to House and Senate offices both to support FY23 appropriations of at least 3.1 million. So this will actually send specific messages to those offices depending on how they fall on those different categories. We're going to activate this on Monday, March 21st at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The link is there, and Mia will be sending that around as well after this in a packet with that link. Also, we'll have our leave behind materials with both the appropriations message and with the JACE Act message. And I think we also have an information page about JACS grants as well, right? Yeah. So that's pretty much all I have. It's a pretty simple ask this time. It really is trying to get that JACE Act moved through the Senate, gets more senators to sign on as co-sponsors. And it's a pretty easy one that I don't see a lot of resistance, or at least from Democratic senators. We have gotten resistance from the Republican senators, but now that it has passed the House on that under that unanimous consent, perhaps we might be able to get some Republicans to assent and to sign on now as co-sponsors. So with that, I will open it up for any questions.
Quick question, David. This is Sam. I think I can get to Feinstein. I've done that before. I don't know Padilla, but I could find. Is there a template that we can use in making the contacts?
Yeah, so that's where you'll use those one pagers that we're going to be sending out.
Okay.
As far as kind of a script, if you want a script for like making a phone call or something, that'll actually be more in this Salsa Labs thing. You'll be able to find it in there
Yeah. Okay.
because you can kind of read off the emails that'll be kind of set in there.
Yeah.
Let's also, Sam, we're looking at some organizations in California to get a group delegation visit with the California senators. So we will add you to that group
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Sure. Okay.
And I think I've mentioned in an email that Padilla is actually looking at co-sponsoring what we're looking at calling the Cesar E. Chavez and the Farm Labor Movement National Historic Park. So we're going to capture his attention. And so I can try to get a hold of one of his staffers to see if we can meet with Padilla.
Great.
And my organization's based in LA. So, and I know Mia has mentioned, like I have Kristen Hayashi and Bill Watanabe and Alan Kumamoto on my board. So if we can hopefully ask them to step in and try to meet with Padilla, we can try to do that. But I'll need assistance in trying to set that all up.
If you want to shoot us their emails, just send us a connection. We can add them to a delegation visit as well.
Okay.
It's always good to have strength in numbers for these delegation visits.
Yeah.
And then Densho actually reached out to us for a call to action. So they're going to share a call to action on their social media and mailing list for folks to send their own emails or letters to their members. And so I think I can work with JCL Fellows and we can put together a small little media toolkit. And if anyone else wants to, use their organizational mailing list or action alert to send a call to action for the Salsa Labs emails, I think that would be great.
Yeah, and those Salsa Labs emails are fully customizable too, so you can totally delete what we have in there and put in your own message if you want, as long as it's in line with what with our talking points here. Don't want you bad mouthing the JACS program in those emails. So, but yes, you can actually put in entirely your own message in there as well.
I had a question or maybe a suggestion. Maybe this is already in the Salsa Labs materials, but we just passed in Oregon a bill to rename highway for some of the Oregon Nisei soldiers. Mm-hmm. And so I'm wondering a potential way to reach out to some of the Republican senators might be that the kind of Nisei veteran and I'm wondering if anybody's worked with veterans networks to try to push from that perspective.
Yeah, obviously, whatever stories will work with your various representatives. Different representatives obviously have different priorities. Interestingly, what was it? I was just talking to someone, and then, well, actually, interestingly, we saw that the World War II History Network obviously did not. There were still 16 Republicans that opposed that. So, and I think that was pretty heavily sort of promoted as a let's support our Nisei veterans. But despite that, yeah, it's weird times right now that we don't quite get the same bipartisanship that we have historically. And yet we do better than most other things in Washington D.C. right now.
We do have some language about the vets in our one pager as well.
I think you might get Christine Yamazaki to
Sato
do something
Yamazaki.
with NVN.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very significant list of veterans groups that they deal with.
Yeah, so hopefully maybe, and that's where the Salsa Labs comes in. It's where groups like MVN or others that are willing to send it out to their supporters, and then and activate them, kind of like what Densho's planning on doing as well. Are there any other questions? I know it's kind of a straightforward message, especially now that we have the passage on one side of Congress. It makes a very, but a little bit of an easier thing to do. But and we know the Senate is oftentimes gridlocked with the 50-50 split right now. So
But yeah, we need to target the Republican senators, that's for sure.
and even some of the Democrats, we only have 9 co-sponsors right now, so we just need to expand that number. And that's one thing, as we do expand the number of co-sponsors, the committee will certainly notice, and then that can lead to more movement as well.
The main Republican senator who supported the initial bill was Bob Bennett from Utah, who was replaced by Mike Lee, who held up the bill, uh, held up,
The bill that's supposed to be signed tomorrow, right, Floyd?
yeah.
So so for some of you who may be following the Amachi bill, there's some rumblings that the president may sign it tomorrow. There was originally some hope that there might be a signing ceremony where we might bring some people in from some survivors in to actually be there, but it's looking like that's probably not going to work, and they're just going to go ahead and sign it. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Look for an email from Mia shortly after this call ends. That'll have
Yeah.
the one pagers, and we'll also have all those links to um, the Salsa Labs page. That'll be active on Monday. And if you try and go to that link now, it'll say that there is nothing there. So I know that's the instinct is to go and check out the web page, but if you do go there right now, there will be nothing there. Thanks, Mark. And Mark, welcome on board. We're happy to see you here, and glad you're there at JMO.
Thank you. And I'm in touch with Lynn, so I'll let her know she's very much still invested in this in her retirement. So
Yeah, and
let
she
her
was
know.
also very involved with the Amachi stuff as well. So
And I may need her to work on Merkley, so we'll see about that.
And then let us know too if you want anyone to join any of your meetings. And I know David and I and others are happy to join.
yeah, so Alex and Bridget are here on the call as well, and I know that they've been reaching out to people just to check on how you're doing as far as scheduling meetings, what you've got scheduled, and if you do need any help with those meetings, let us know, and one of us can be on there with you, whether it's me, Alex, Bridget, or myself, or Floyd.
All right. Thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Have a good night, everyone. Happy St.
Bye.
Patrick's Day.